Alright, MrSotko here, and welcome back to another StarCraft 2 replay cast. Today it's a 1 vs 1 on Orbital Shipyard between our green Protoss player Torkk, and down at the bottom we have our light pink-ish Zerg player daydrA. And we're going to go ahead and speed this on up to the 8x mark when all the good stuff starts to happen. It's a 2-minute mark of the game. Otherwise we're just going to be watching buildings build, and we could watch the building build though. Pretty exciting. And that's just about where we want it. Two gateways up for Torkk there. Cybernetics core coming out. And both sides expansion pretty quick there. And Overlords moving out to both sides. Only one place to spawn on Orbital Shipyard, so you know exactly where your opponent's at. But the Overlords coming out to this side here to check for drops. And one's going to be on the other side to check for drops as well. And Queen out here for daydrA. Other Queen out for daydrA. Imagine that. And a pretty slow moving game at the start here. But so it happens from time to time. No Zerg rush this time around. Nothing too crazy. But that does happen from time to time. And now 2 Adepts coming out there. 4 Adepts really coming out. And Chrono boosting them as well. Torkk ghosting along there, transferring along. And some Zerglings to help defend here. And we'll see if we can do any damage with these or not. In production, we do have that metabolic boost for those Zerglings. The Twilight Council also coming for the Protoss. And the other 2 Adepts are on their way. And is he going to wait for the other 2 Adepts or what here? Not really sure. He did check and was checking to see if maybe there was a second expansion. But that is not the case at all. So now he's moving back. And where are those other ones? And units on the screen, y'all. Does still have 4 of them. And I think he may have sent them back to base indeed. So he's just holding them there for a little while. And so a very interesting game so far in the sense that nothing has really happened. And usually, and it goes a little bit faster than that. Now an Overseer on the map here. And going to move through and spot everything that's going on. Even drops a changeling there just for fun. But the Mothership Core takes that out pretty quick there. Twilight Council researching those resonating glaives for the Adepts and a robotics facility coming up now. So the Overseer saw all that and may be expecting some kind of drop now because the Warp Prism is coming out. And 2 gateways coming up all the way over there, trying to juke out his opponent a little bit, but I think the Overseer is probably going to be going over there sometime soon here. Now 2 more Adepts on the field, and looks like he's sort of massing up Adepts at the moment. And we'll transfer them all over there with the Warp Prism, then open up the Warp Prism and start warping in units at the Zerg base here. I'm going to try and get around the other side. Second expansion going up for the Zerg, staying on top of the Protoss. And now even more Adepts coming out. Now 4 more Adepts have been created and has 6 over here. So a total of 10 Adepts on the field right now. So it's very sort of an interesting tactic. So we'll see how this works. And Warp Prism going straight down the center here and make it spotted by these Overlords with that path. So he might want to deviate just a little bit. But no, he's definitely going to get spotted by those Overlords. So now Zerg player knows exactly what's going on here. It has some Hydralisks out to try and take out those Warp Prisms. He definitely knows that it's coming. And a second Warp Prism out on the field now for the Protoss. Trying perhaps going to go around the other side. Indeed, going to do just that, but didn't load up those Adepts, strangely enough. And now going to start dropping some of these Adepts here, but just don't think it's going to be enough. There's so many Zerglings here, and was spotted right away. And now here come the Hydralisks to take out that Warp Prism, and the other Warp Prism coming around the other side, and still has those 6 in the base. And I figured he would load up 4 of them in this Warp Prism to drop 4 at a time there. But perhaps he's just going to load up, or just going to warp in with that Warp Prism there. Indeed, doing just that. And now this Warp Prism, where is that other Warp Prism? I lost it on the map somewhere there. But the Adepts coming in now and going to put those inside the Warp Prism and then do it again. Warp Prism going in and going to drop in this expansion here. And this is relatively undefended. All the units moving across the screen now. And moving towards his opponent's base with some lurkers. And so he drops in here. And it's going to take him a little bit to respawn. But no, here comes some Hydralisks. They were already spawned and were moving out. They're going to be able to finish those off pretty easily there. Warp Prism gets loaded back up with a couple adepts. And we'll be able to make it out. And this one adept was in there for some reason. He was just having a good time. And another drop over here in the expansion drop, and now warping in on some additional adepts over there. So now taking out quite a bit of these drones over here. Units lost, 2,700 lost here in these drones. These adepts are just crushing all of these drones. And here he comes now, daydrA now coming down to the bottom. And this was a very successful drop over here. I actually didn't even see that drop for a moment. So if I didn't see that drop, daydrA definitely didn't see that drop. So nobody's seen that drop. That means that was a really good drop. So 3,187 resources lost for daydrA, mostly in terms of drones. And that is quite the bit of losses. But here comes daydrA now on the offensive. There's quite a bit of zealots here, though. Adepts and a couple sentries, or a couple immortals, rather, and a couple sentries. Immortal gets totally surrounded there, was way out of place, and I'm going to lose that pretty quickly. But nothing really to use the immortals against. These lurkers here do take quite a bit of damage from the immortals, but not a lot of roaches or anything that really need countering. A couple High Templars out in the field, but does not have that early Psy Storm. And Zealots not charging, but got to watch out for those Lurkers. Lurkers are so good against Zealots. As soon as they charge in, they pretty much just insta-die. And now bringing up an Archon here, so not going to Psy Storm, really just going to make an Archon instead. Now as an Observer out in the field here, and going to be able to spot these Lurkers and the Immortals, soaking them up. Damaging them, rather. And takes them all out there. So a very successful defense from our Protoss player Torkk. And another drop here coming in at the base of the Zerg, but not going to do too much. There's so many units here, and just doesn't really amount to much. The Hydralisks take out the Warp Prism there. Another Warp Prism now coming in here. I'm going to be warping in tons of Zealots, and could have warped in some Zealots first and loaded that Warp Prism up so that it would drop even more. But going to go after the Lurker Den here, but I don't know if they're going to get it or not. It's actually going to be kind of close. But now that the Hydralisks are there, they would have gotten it without the Hydralisks there. Now that Den is very low and very vulnerable, another drop there would be able to finish that off pretty easy. But if you just load up some units first in that Warp Prism and then drop, you just have 4 additional units, or depending on whatever you put in there. I'm going to clear out these rocks here to get to the next expansion. And 3 Archons up for the Protoss. And a pretty diverse army. Adepts, Zealots, Sentries, Immortals. And it does have Psystorm in production, though, from those High Templars. Has an Oracle out on the field. And Carapace level 1 being researched. And ground weapons level 2 for the Protoss. And Warp Prism looks like it's ready to warp in here and load up and do it again. If you could take out that Lurker Den, that would be pretty nice, as Lurkers are just so good. And so to stall those out for even a little bit. Some units revealed there, particularly those Lurkers, so that's really nice that he revealed those Lurkers. And no more mana there to take out those Zerglings. Needs to wait a little bit on that. Still going to be able to use it as scouting potential. 2 Overseers over here together. And so far, not really putting anything in that Warp Prism. Not really looking to drop again. And Protoss expanding over here. And some Zerglings now coming on over and going to do some damage to this Nexus. And not a lot of mana on this Oracle, but chases them away. And lots of chain links now coming on in to the Protoss base. But the Protoss really doesn't care at the moment. I don't think he's really spotting these, and they're just gonna run out all over the place and see everything that's going on. So that's very excellent scouting. And here we go. The lurkers already in the ground, but here come the observers, gonna spot those. And one observer lost to the overseer, stayed around a little bit longer, overstayed his welcome in the airspace of the Zerg. And now some excellent side storms go down in the choke there. Does so much damage to that Zerg. Took out all of those Hydralisks, so many corpses on the ground. That was some very, very excellent side stormage. And looks like some drops in the base here. Or rather, at least some zealots got in there one way or another. Didn't actually see how they got in there, but no, this warp prism up here may have produced them, and they went down. And still did a good amount of damage there. And now the unit's lost a little bit even now. More so even than it was. Oracle Revelation on those units there. Hits all of those lurkers. So going to be able to spot everywhere they go and where they burrow. And now trying to get the expansion of the Protoss here. Makes a few zealots to stop the progress. And has so many immortals to take out these lurkers. And here comes the High Templars now. Are they going to sidestorm? No, they're just going to make some Archons. They must have been too low on mana to do so. Successfully defended his expansion there. And now some Tempests are in production. And a Dark Shrine as well is on the way. So probably going to use the Warp Prism here to warp in some Dark Templars. But no, it's going to be moving around. And where is he going with that? He almost ran over all of those Hydralisks with his Warp Prism there. And going to find a safe spot in between these Spore Crawlers here. Now warping in a bunch of Zealots. And unfortunately, didn't wait for that Dark Shrine, but I guess you don't really need to. Now it takes out the Lurker Den, so no more Lurkers for a little bit. And Evolution Chamber going to be lost here, but I don't think he was researching much from that anyway. Now going after the lair. Warp Prism needs to bail out of there, but he's just going to lose that. Not too big of a deal. I guess he wasn't really that worried about it. A fairly successful drop took out the Lurker Den and the Evolution Chamber. Ground weapons. Level 3 for the Protoss being upgraded. And so a bit more upgrades for the Protoss. I mean, two upgrades, but the Zerg has 1 and 1. So even in terms of how many upgrades, but quite a bit more damage from the Protoss now. And so many Immortals to take out all of these Hydralisks. And Zerglings get all up in this Nexus here. And I'm going to lose a good chunk of, surprisingly not a lot of probes actually. But I may lose this Nexus here. It is going down really quick. And did lose this Nexus, but has some Tempests out of the field. They're just bombing. And a fourth one in the back. Zerg army wiped out, but the expansion also wiped out. So an eye for an eye there. Zerg already ready to attack soon again here. And now the Zerglings moving up and going to go over the right side. I'm going to try and get into probably this expansion. Or if they can, into the main base. But this one is currently producing. Going to split them up a little bit there. And some going in the main base. And the Zealot gets warped in, but it wasn't a tight enough alleyway there, and they get by it anyway. And now going to go after some of the probes all over the place here. Now Protoss is going to have to micro everywhere, but he's going straight for the Zerg base now. Somewhat of a base rush But these Zerglings give up, and now they're coming back to defend the Zerg base and fly right over those Tempests and lose a few of those Zerglings. And daydrA has to GG out to Torkk there, and very well played on both sides. I thought that was a very interesting match. The beginning of the match was a little bland, but that does happen from time to time. And all of those adepts were rather interesting, and the drop over here was amazing and did so much damage. I was actually looking over here during a drop, and there was actually one going on over here and took out so much, thousands worth of drones, and set him back for the rest of the game. And all of these Immortals were just eating up those lurkers, and well played with the Oracle using Revelation on those lurkers too, to be able to spot them wherever they're going and wherever they burrow. But I hope you guys enjoyed the replay, and I'll see you guys next time.